Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I am doing a Q1 review, summary, reflection of how my no/low spend is going so far. So 3 months into the year, end of Q1, I am not exactly not spending. I am low spending compared to what it has been the past 2 years of me collecting and buying in this stationery niche that I'm a part of on Instagram, YouTube, and pretty much on social media, because I emphasize social media because before I was on this stationery journaling side of social media, my spending was like once a year for the new journal for that year, maybe some Crayola, super tip markers, pencils and tools. It was very, very minimal then. Well, fast forward to discovering the stationery and journaling community and fanatics on Instagram and YouTube, my spending has exponentially skyrocketed. And I'm wanting to rein that in, be a little bit more in control of what I'm spending, and definitely more aware. I want to emphasize that it's not really about the dollar amount. It's not exactly about how much I'm spending, but so much more that I am aware of what I'm spending to therefore minimize regrets of what I spend my hard-earned dollar on. So for the month of January, I did really, really well. I lasted almost the entire month. I spent money on the very last day of that month. And to be clear, this is only in terms of stationery. Of course, money is being spent on other things like essentials, also non-essentials, fun things, entertainment things, but in this regard, I am specifically talking about my love for stationery because it is personal only to me. It doesn't benefit or contribute to any other form of entertainment for the rest of my family. It's like specifically solely for me. And in the month of January, I spent $60.38, and it was with 𝘐𝘯𝘴𝘵. I purchased a 10-pack of PVC covers to protect and cover the TN regular size inserts. I had talked about this in my previous video. If you haven't already, I have 2 videos prefacing this Q1 update. The first one being me going through my stationery stash. I mentioned that I was thinking about PVC covers for my inserts to therefore better preserve these special edition covers, but I found that I just really like to use them in general because I like to use my inserts loosely when I travel. I won't always bring a journal leather cover for every insert that I'm using or wanting to bring, and having the PVC covers in the months of February and March were really helpful because I was traveling during those months. And that's a really important thing to be aware of because I was traveling. Spending increased during those months. But for the month of January, I'm pretty proud of my spending that month. I was really motivated. It's the times that I made those 2 previous videos. I had just gone through my stationery stash and my inventory and made a set of criteria and exceptions for myself into this year of my no/low buy stationery. My second video, if you have not already seen it, was my stationery podcast with Stacy, and she talks about her 2025 lineup while I talk about the exceptions, the criteria that I'm following for this spending year. And that leads me into the month of February. I really needed to look at my list again, all the criteria. I looked at every single category of stationery that I own, such as my TN collection, fountain pens, pet tape, decor, washi, then we get into tools, and I made a set of criteria that I should follow and ask myself every time that I want to purchase something. And then I have a list of exceptions that maybe I've been looking for, hunting for, and then a list of no buy items. Absolutely no excuses. Do not buy these items in their respective categories. So One of the things was I told myself for my fountain pens, if I'm going to purchase one, I need to have a 1 in, 1 out system. I need to destash something. I did say no more brown pens, but I said no more brown and green pens. What I did was I purchased a brown pen, but I did destash 2 green pens. So I destashed a Sailor Pro Gear Slim, Sakura Mochi, and I was in love with that colorway last year. I just knew that I shouldn't have purchased the Pro Gear Slim, and I had made an exception for myself at that time because I really wanted that color, but I should have known better. I should have known by my experience and just with how I use my fountain pens that I was probably never going to pick up that Pro Gear Slim, and I didn't. I didn't ink it up. I never wrote with it except for the first day that I got it to do a nib test. And so I sold it, and that is a very hard line rule for me this year is no more buying Pro Gear Slims. I have been tempted since making that rule, but successfully have been able to destash 2 pens with the incoming of 1 pen, and I purchased a TWSBI espresso pen. I purchased it with Penrealm, Kirkspear of Penrealm, and I got an Imperial nib grind on it. I really like to take advantage of TWSBI's more affordable price point and then bump it up a step further and get a nib grind on it so I can experiment with different nib grinds and just kind of expand that portion of my collection. But that cost me $100 flat. I did not pay for any shipping because I opted to get it picked up by my friend, and she still has it. I just need to meet her and get it from her. The other purchase I made in the month of February was from Taylor Ryan Designs. I hesitated on purchasing this pet tape that I wanted because I said I wasn't going to buy any more pet tape. So I hesitated. I knew that this was a rule that I needed to follow. The pet tape sold out on me, and so the next best thing was for me to buy the printable version of it. And I felt like it was a little bit more justified because I could reuse the printable however often I wanted. It was like a lifetime access for me to have it and to print. I just knew that I was at a standstill because I don't own sticker paper. I don't own a cutting machine. I bought it anyways, and then I proved myself right that I shouldn't have because it's really tedious to cut out printable stickers, and it's really annoying to have to use a glue stick and try to get every single part of that shape with glue adhesive. So that was $15 I could have spent better or saved better elsewhere. So that's my only thing that I wished I didn't do. I don't want to say it's a regret because I do really like the printable stickers that I chose. I think it's really versatile. I really enjoyed using it the times that I was motivated to cut it up and glue it down. But now, a month and a half later, there's so many other things I'd rather do, like journal, catch up on things, cut out pet tape, than to go cut out that printable and glue every single piece by hand, one by one. So maybe if I purchase sticker paper in the future, I definitely don't want to buy a cutting machine. So I don't want to purchase more things to then make this one thing that I bought more useful to me, more functional. But it's like, where do you just accept the loss? And I think I'm accepting the loss of that $15 printable unless, a friend wants to print me stickers or using the printable, etc. But me trying to justify, maybe I'll buy sticker paper, definitely don't want to buy a cutting machine. So it is what it is. So the month of February was pretty good, other than that printable $15, but $15 is a lot in terms of stationery. You could get 3 sticker sheets, 3 plus more sticker sheets. I could get a whole roll of pet tape. So in that sense, it could have been money better spent elsewhere. For the month of March, I was traveling in the Philippines and I spent a lot more money in the month of March, but it actually turned out to be a really good month because I was expected to travel to Japan at the end of March or mid-March. And so in my trip in the Philippines, I was expecting that. I was expecting going to Japan and spending a lot of money. So the weeks that I was in the Philippines, I was trying to tone it down and prepare myself like I'm going to find way better things in Japan. It's going to be more affordable. And then at the last possible week, possible few days, we canceled our Japan trip. And by that time it was like time to pack up and go back home. So my purchases in March were at a stationery store in the Philippines. At Craft Stories, I spent $63.42. Then I bought through an Instagram account, Papers and Me. I really wanted more memo paper samples, and I spent $12 with her, including shipping. And then I met with a journal friend in the Philippines, and she owns a sticker shop, Art by B, and she hand delivered me some stickers. I spent $4 with her. Then, because I found out I wasn't going to Japan, I then started window shopping a lot online, and I was justifying it at that time because I wasn't going to Japan, and so I would have spent way more in Japan. So I kept saying like, well, I have a little bit of spending money. I'm not going to feel guilty because had I actually gone to Japan, it would have been hundreds of dollars. So what's, a few dollars here and there. Luckily, I stopped that pretty quickly, but I did spend $35.80 with a store named 𝘠𝘓𝘏, and then I needed to restock on some tools. So this is where like I don't really consider this a stationary spending, but it is still stationary. So I purchased glue tape refills for my glue runner, my tape runner on Amazon for $35.22. It sounds like a lot for glue tape.
It turns out that $17 of that $35 was actually a blind box. Okay, bye.
But I actually bought more dispensers, like the body. I couldn't just buy the refills because the body that I had broke. It lasted me a good 2 years. And I decided, since I was buying the body of the glue tape runner, that I would try out different glue tapes. So that's a project for the future. And then from Traveler's Company, I ordered a card file plastic sleeve for $13.32. I wanted to set up one of my TNs to display more photos. I'm trying to think. It's been a while since I last updated this, but as far as I can remember, I have not added any more stationery purchases since then. Unfortunately, I have been purchasing elsewhere. um, the thing with me is that I tend to purchase not a little bit in multiple places. I'll spend a lot in one place. So my stationery spending might look minimal, but it's because I'm really hyper fixated right now on creating drinks for myself at home. Since coming home from the Philippines, drinks in the US are just so expensive. In the Philippines, they were like $2.50, $3. Really affordable to be able to go out to a coffee shop and try different places. And if you follow my channel, you know that I like to try different coffee shops to journal about it, to record the experience, and that's one of the project journals I really enjoy doing. So I took advantage of how affordable it was in the Philippines, but since coming back home, I really still want that experience. So what I've been doing is buying like different flavor, different types of matcha, a matcha whisk, matcha bowls. So I have spent quite a bit of money in other categories. Categories that again are like personally for me, for my enjoyment, part of my hobby, whatever that hobby is, I guess being a barista, a matcherista. So while it may not be stationary, it is something that I need to be aware of and check myself with. Another thing that I enjoy spending money on is clothes and shoes, and I had done a lot of that prior to my trip, so that was part of my February spending, but that was in that other category of my life. So I don't want you to think that my stationery spending is so drastically low in comparison to what it was before. While it is, money is still coming out into other categories. So, for example, I think last year in the months of January and February, I was spending somewhere around $600 a month in stationery. That could be another TWSBI fountain pen. I think that's when the Echo Crim came out, and I got that also with a custom grind from Kirkspear, and then probably I bought new inks, rubber stamps, pet tape. It all adds up really quickly. And yeah, I was pretty much spending around a minimum of $500 a month on stationery. And so seeing how much my spending has drastically decreased this year, I am really proud of myself, but I still have a lot of work to do because, like I said, the money isn't only going to stationery, it's going to other interests of mine, and that's where I need to hone it down in general, in a whole sense, in the bigger picture of things. So I have some upcoming events. This is something that I really wanted to be more mindful of, is stop spending money to build my stationery collection. I'm really happy with my collection at home. Instead, I want my stationery money to go to experiences. So I have finalized my plans to go to Little Craft Fest in April. And then in May in Los Angeles, there is Pen Paper Palooza. Then we have June, July with no events planned. So I really need to use that time to really save money for San Francisco Pen Show, which is at the end of August. And if you watched my video last year, I spent $1,000 at San Francisco Pen Show. It was my very first time attending a pen show. I made really big purchases like a plotter, leather, binder, a Sailor fountain pen, and a lot of pet tape, deco, stickers, and stuff like that. And I really want to be more mindful and purposeful with my purchases at San Francisco Pen Show. I won't say now if I'm going to buy a pen there. I do know I'm going to be really tempted with seeing stationery shops again in person and their items. But my goal is to really stay, like for Little Craft Place, to stay under 300, with Pen Paper Palooza under 200, and then with San Francisco Pen Show, maybe under 600. I don't know. That one is a very arbitrary number because I know fountain pens are really costly, and I don't know what my fountain pen preferences and collection will look like by that time of the year because I'll have attended 2 events prior. Little Craft Fest is a different kind of stationery festival, in terms of the vendors that I enjoy purchasing from. So I don't know what to expect. I don't know what I'm going to see, though I do want to spend more of my purchases on things like workshops, events, outings with friends while I'm there in Houston, Texas. And then with Pen Paper Palooza, because it's just in Los Angeles in my own backyard, I hope I'm able to rein it in a little bit more. But I do know that the 2 hosts between Little Craft Fest and Pen Paper Palooza are on the very opposite sides of the stationery world. So I have no idea what to expect. I could go over my budget on Pen Paper Palooza. I mean, I could on Little Craft Fest as well, and each one will kind of just trickle into the next. So I got to keep the big picture in mind. I know I'm going to San Francisco Pen Show. I don't want to blow my entire year budget on Little Craft Fest when I know I'm expecting to go to some of these other events. So I really need to be mindful. I think it would be helpful for me to kind of go through my stationery stash again. I've gotten a lot of items since that first video, some Happy Mail trades, so I have a lot more pet tape samples again, and that is usually what stresses me out. I have this entire pouch here filled with pet tape, a lot of it that I haven't even gone through since receiving it in the mail, and so by going through those things, maybe cutting them out and putting them in my sticker release paper, it satisfies the itch of wanting to buy new pet tape because I see how much new items I already have. While it may not be a new design, it's new to me because somebody just gave it to me recently. And so those are the ways that I need to remind myself that I don't need to buy new things. I don't need mail to come in because I have enough here. I really need to keep my stash functional and not just be a hoard of items that sit here and grow old, physically and literally, because, for example, washi tapes lose their adhesive after a while. I've been seeing a couple of people mention it on Instagram, and I'm like, wow, how quickly does that happen? Because some of my washi's are only 2 years old, but I don't know how much the adhesive would wear off. I know it depends on weather, humidity, how hot it is in your stationary space. But all things to keep in mind, because nobody wants the things we spend our money on to go bad, to where it's not usable anymore, it's not functional. While a lot of paper goods can last forever, some things need to be used while it's fresh and new, like washi tapes and maybe sticker adhesive. After a while, they won't be as sticky anymore. Anyways, for quarter 1, I thought I was going to do a lot better, but looking at it laid out and all the dollar amounts, I'm pretty happy and satisfied with what I spent. I don't know what I was really expecting out of the first quarter. I think because things got switched up on me a lot, I'm in this position of where I could have spent a lot more money in Japan, but I didn't. So now I want to make excuses for myself to buy things, but I don't need to because I have all these great events to look forward to. And so I'm trying not to be hard on myself here because it could have been a lot worse. But I also can't use that as an opportunity to spend more. One thing that I mentioned recently in my stories was when I was trying to purchase from a small business pottery shop for a matcha bowl. I had 3 different shops doing pre-orders, and I loved all 3 of their designs. The one that I wanted the most was on the very last day. Let's say it was Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So I had opportunities Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to try and purchase a custom-made matcha bowl, but the one I really wanted was on Saturday. So on Thursday, I had the dilemma of, do I buy one when I really want the one on Saturday? But what if I don't get the one on Saturday? Then I would want to get this one, but I don't know that yet. It hasn't happened. And so each time, Thursday and Friday, I added the item to my cart, super speedy, fast fingers, and then I hesitated. And then it sold out on me within seconds, and the pre-orders were closed literally in 2 minutes of the pre-orders being opened. And the decision was made for me. I hesitated and then lost that opportunity. And so now came the third day, the third option, the one I really wanted most, and I was able to secure my spot for the pre-order, and that made me so happy because it was the one I wanted the most, and they're not cheap. They're about like $200 for a bowl and the whisk stand set. If you are a matcha person, you know what I'm talking about. But I told myself, like, wow, had I purchased a backup set from one of the previous shops and then happened to make the pre-order for the one I really wanted, that would have been a lot of money for just feeling FOMO. That would have been $400. And then let's say I did purchase from the shop on Thursday or Friday, and then I was sitting there at my cart on Saturday, I would have probably hesitated because I had just spent $200, but here I was having the opportunity to buy the one that I really wanted, and so now I kind of just shot myself in the foot, losing out on the one that I really wanted because I'd already spent $200 the previous day before. So I'm really happy for myself for not giving into FOMO and just getting the one that I wanted. I knew that week that I was going to drop a big chunk of change because I wanted a matcha set from one of these small businesses. I had already accepted that. I had already accepted spending probably around $200, but to almost justify myself in purchasing above that and more than that, almost double that, um, all in the name of FOMO, it was like really excessive and eye-opening to me that I feel like I need a consolation prize for something. And that applied to my trip in Japan. Like, okay, I didn't go to Japan, so because I didn't get to go, I want this to make up for it, a consolation prize. And I found myself doing a lot in this first quarter, and that's something that, like, it's okay to not replace it with something else. It's better to just wait and get the thing that you really want and wait for it, even if it takes months up to a year. I have some items in my collection that are so precious to me because I waited and because I wanted it more and more and more. The more I waited and I knew that I really wanted it, that when I finally got it, it was worth all the trouble and the waiting. And I know some things aren't like that because they get discontinued. Some things just sell out and they need to be restocked. I don't know, it's just better to let that FOMO moment happen than to try to make up for it with something else. And that is, I think, my biggest takeaway for quarter one, because had I given into these moments of FOMO and these what if questions, and these like first world shopping problems, I would have spent so much more money that could have been better spent elsewhere, money that is borrowed from other places. Like, I don't have this much of a disposable income towards hobbies and products. What I'm doing really is taking it from somewhere else, taking it from my family when we want to save for another vacation to the Philippines, for example. I am just taking it from myself, from my future self, from my husband and my kids, and the future activities and entertainment that we want to do. So I need to remind myself of that, because getting my second and third pick is not worth it when that money could have been better spent by waiting to get my first pick or on other experiences. For example, that money could now be saved to then have an experience that is once in a lifetime, one of a kind at one of these events and festivals and stationery events with stationary people. So that's just something I need to remind myself. I don't need to make myself feel better with getting another purchase, and that is something that I often do. If something sells out in my cart, then I will scroll and see if there's anything else that I like that can kind of fill that void, and a lot of the times it never really does. You get up to that free shipping amount and you picked something just to fill it in, and maybe that item's not even something that you love. But all this to say that it's always constantly a work in progress. I don't think it's ever just going to happen overnight one day where I fix all of these shopping issues that I have. But day by day, month by month, we are going to try. I want to have at least one entire month in 2025 where it's a complete no buy year. I just know it's going to be hard because April, I already have Little Craft Fest, May, Pen Paper Palooza, June and July, maybe. But I have a feeling something's going to be released that I want. Actually, I just remembered Travelers Company is going to release their Red TN in April. So maybe I'm safe from a Travelers Company release in June and July, and those can be my no-buy months. August is going to be the San Francisco Pen Show. September, I'm trying to go to Japan, push our Japan trip that we didn't go on to the fall. October, we are trying to go to the Philippines, and then November and December is just a crazy time in general because of preparing for Christmas. So in doing this and seeing the future ahead and seeing the year ahead, June and July need to be my no spend months. I would really love to say that I had at least one full month of complete zero stationery spending, and to stay within my set budgets for these events. Hopefully, I can have proper time to analyze the vendors at these events and properly set a budget for myself that is realistic and attainable for me to actually follow. But if you have any questions, I am really not ever shy to answer questions about finances or spending. I think a lot of us share a lot of the same struggles when it comes to shopping, especially after 2020. I think a lot of us had a lot of time to do a lot more online shopping, and it's a habit that has come with us since getting out of that state of the world. So let me know if you have any questions. I'd love to hear how your quarter one went, if you were also trying to do a no or low buy year. We still have the rest of the year. It is always a work in progress. Do not stress too much about it. All we can do is do better the next day. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye.